The steel rule. This engine existed in imagination only before it was put on paper in the form of drawings. These drawings guided the men in the forge, where great hammers pounded blocks of steel into shape, and men in the machine shop followed these drawings to work the rough forgings to exact size. Every part of every machine, large and small, is checked with measuring tools at every step in the work to make certain that the size and shape of each part matches the dimensions on the drawing exactly. Dimensions are always measurements of distance, such as length, and such as width, which includes diameters, and such as the depth of slots and of holes. The radius of a fillet, the throw of a cam or an eccentric, is a measurement of distance. Also, the pitch of a screw, the distance between threads, is a measurement of distance. To measure distances, the machine operator has measuring tools with precise scales, usually divided in terms of a standard unit of length. This standard unit of length or distance in the United States is the inch, and this must be exactly the same on all measuring tools. The degree of precision to which a part must be made is specified on every shop drawing. Here will be found definite information as to size, shape, and location. Dimensions given in fractions ordinarily are measured with a rule, since the graduations on the scale are capable of measuring within the tolerances allowed. A dimension given in decimals with closer tolerances requires a more precise tool, such as a micrometer. These two tools are the most widely used in any shop for measuring distance. The chief difference between the two is the accuracy with which distance can be measured. The steel rule measures in fractions of an inch to 1/64th. One-sixty-fourth of an inch is nearly 16 one-thousandths of an inch, written in decimal form as 0.015625. Measuring in distances as small as 1,000th of an inch or less is done with a micrometer caliper. Many other tools have been devised to attain precise and delicate measurements. Some of them are highly specialized, but the most commonly used measuring tool is the steel rule. The steel rule usually has 4 scales, 2 scales on each side. This one graduated in 1/8ths of an inch, and this scale in 1/16ths of an inch. The scales on the other side are graduated in 32nds and 64ths of an inch. Some rules have numbered graduations. These make the scales easier to read and reduce the possibility of errors. Rules are also made with other standard systems of graduations. Here is a scale graduated in 10ths, 20ths, 50ths, and 100ths of an inch. Then there are scales graduated in 12ths, 24ths, and 48ths, and others in 14ths and 28ths, and other systems of graduation. Before using a steel rule, check the scale identification for the system of graduation to avoid errors. The rule should always be held parallel with the edge of the piece. It is good practice to set the 1-inch index to the end of the piece. Subtract the value of the first inch on the rule. The reading is 3 inches minus 1 inch. The piece is 2 inches wide. When measuring the length of a piece of round stock, be sure to hold the rule straight with the center line. To measure the diameter of a round piece, place the rule directly across the center. A narrow, flexible rule is particularly useful where the rigid rule will not go because... To measure the diameter of a hole, be sure the rule is directly across the center. The end of the rule should bear against the side of the hole, and the rule should be tilted as little as possible. There are many types and variations of steel rules. Among them is the hook rule. It is particularly convenient to use for measuring narrow widths, as from a shoulder. Steel rules are made in very short lengths mounted in holders and are especially useful for taking measurements in close places. One modification of the steel rule is in the form of a depth gauge useful for measuring slots and holes. Be sure the depth rule is held at right angles to the face of the work. Lock the clamping screw. The narrow rule will enter holes down to 3/16 of an inch in diameter. The rule depth gauge is convenient to use in measuring the depth of keyways. Another application of the steel rule is in the combination square. Among its many other functions, the combination square is used in laying out work. If the material is of steel, a solution may be used to make layout lines more easily visible. Using a rag that is free of oil or grease, swab the work sparingly with the solution. A drawing shows a plate in which 2 holes are to be drilled.